Here, listen to this. Burma. There is romance in the very word, recalling a vision of white pagodas by the Irrawaddy, gazing out across the peaceful countryside, a land of light-hearted, laughing people, lovers of flowers and of bright colours, and women, dainty and self-possessed, ascending the pagoda steps, the morning sunshine beating down through paper parasols upon the delicate beauty of their gay silks.
Would you believe it?
Every year, from May until September, Burma lies under the monsoon. For 4 months, the rain and wind and mist sweep in from the Bay of Bengal, turning the dusts of summer into mud, setting free malaria, dysentery, and typhus, enemies more deadly than the Jap. Every stream and riverbed carries a swirling torrent. Man's natural resistance weakens. In this watery world, he forgets what it is to be dry. The body weeps unceasingly with sweat. Mildew grows on boots, and the smell of mold clings to the clothing, while thoughts of distance, isolation, and loneliness rise up to try the spirit. The natural wealth of the Burmese plains lies passive in the embrace of a vast horseshoe of mountain ramparts, which guard her frontiers with India to the west and China to the north and east. From the mountain tops to the plains beneath, untrodden and unbroken, stretches the jungle. High among the northern peaks rise the headwaters of 3 great rivers, the Chindwin, Irrawaddy, and Salween, which flow south to water the plains, but form yet one more obstacle to the movement of armies. In 1942, the pent-up force of Japan's military ambition, fired by easy conquest, exploded into Burma. Ill-prepared, ill-equipped, but fighting stubbornly, the British-Chinese forces were forced back. The British across the frontier into India, the Chinese up the wild gorges of the Salween into the province of Yunnan. The Burma Road, China's last land link with her allies, was cut. At one savage stroke, Japan had secured both a base for her forthcoming attack on India and a natural shield to her conquests in Southeast Asia. With the threat to India growing daily more grave, the Allies established Southeast Asia Command. Embracing over 40 different nationalities, its main strength was drawn from the great volunteer armies raised throughout India. A born innovator and firm believer in the unorthodox, Admiral Lord Louis Mountbatten, Chief of Combined Operations, was appointed Supreme Commander.
I've come here to have a look at you and to let you have a look at me. Not that I'm particularly proud of my mug, but we must get to know each other because we're all part of Southeast Asia Command now. One big Allied effort. We're going to get a move on everywhere. We're a long way from home here in Southeast Asia, and I know that some of you feel neglected and forgotten by our people at home. But let me tell you that very soon your achievements will prove an inspiration to them all. Somebody started the story that the Jap was a kind of jungle Superman. I can assure you that he's nothing of the sort. He's an unintelligent slum dweller with nothing worth fighting for except a fanatical belief that his emperor is a kind of god. When the Jap tries his old trick of getting behind you and cutting your lines of communication, stay put. We'll supply you by air, and you'll defeat him. From now on, there'll be no more retreat.
But the Japanese were confident. During 1943, by a series of fierce thrusts, they sought to exhaust our resources and at the same time to build up a full-scale striking force for the invasion of India. In 1944, the blow came. First, a thrust to Bengal from the Arakan. This failed. But in March, the main attack swept across the Indian borders up to Imphal and Kohima. The direction of this thrust had been anticipated. The 14th Army garrisons had been reinforced and dug in. There was to be no more retreat. By April the 9th, the Kohima-Imphal road had been cut and Kohima besieged. Hemmed into a narrow ring, the small garrison was laid under a murderous barrage from the heights above the town, which blasted every basher, bungalow, and tree. The 14th Army land supply routes were cut. At Kohima, the surrounding hills could provide no landing ground. Each day, American pilots flew 300 planes through a storm of shell and bullet to drop their urgent cargoes on the shrinking target area. Parachutes dappled the battle-torn hills like discarded shrouds. There was no respite. No member of the garrison slept for more than 2 hours on end. The only water supply lay within 30 yards of the Japs. Men crawled out singly on their bellies to fill their containers. The wounded were being re-wounded 3 and 4 times. Laid in pits without proper cover, they were all the time under calculated fire. Medical supplies were short. One medical officer amputated with a knife, which, in his own words, became rather like a hacksaw. But the hearts of the men held firm. The garrison stood.
With the Japanese engaged before Imphal and Kohima, the Allies had already struck in the north. The objective, to reopen the land route to China, the Supreme Commander's plan, the recovery of northern Burma, and the building of a highway from Lido across the mountains to link with the old Burma road beyond Myitkyina. Commanding the drive and all Chinese troops in Burma was the American General Stilwell, known to his men as Vinegar Joe. Since 1942, he had been training the Chinese in India for this operation. From China, 13,000 reinforcements had been flown over the Himalayas to aid him. In 1942, said Stilwell, "I tell you, we took a hell of a beating." He was now ready to return it.